Do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Should I like talk to the camera or talk to you guys? Like, what would be like
Just
less
like
weird?
talk to us.
Okay. Yeah, that feels better. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, Brandon Macri. I'm a manager in Deloitte's consulting practice here in Victoria. I'm part of the government and public sector solutions practice. I bring about 6 years of experience in strategy and operations consulting, and my work typically sits at the intersection of strategy, implementation planning, and stakeholder management. So happy to chat with you guys about anything to do with my organization.
How would you describe cultural diversity and how it fits into your organizational culture?
Like, how would I describe it, or like, what does Deloitte describe it as?
Well, how do you fit cultural diversity in your organization?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm like the best person to like speak on that because of like my delivery focus, but I would say broadly at Deloitte, cultural diversity is foundational to how we structure our people, our talent, and also our delivery of work. We have many different like distinct practices for EDI, as well as like a pretty big Indigenous engagement and facilitation capability. And we hire the right people for that and regularly review both our policies and the way we interact with other businesses and just society at large. So succinctly, I would just say it's foundational. I can't get too much into it as I'm not at the head of that, but it's pretty important here at Deloitte.
Okay, and then thank you. Next, do you think having passion to have a diverse team is enough to form and maintain a diverse team?
Like just passion?
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely like helps. Like in my perspective, like passion in any sort of industry is like a perishable resource where like if you are trying to do something just based on like willpower or like high bursts of energy, like eventually that's not going to be sustainable and you're going to burn out. So I think it's like an important component to start things out with. You need to build something that's going to last over the long term. And that results in like regular sustained like transformation, both at an individual level and also an organizational level. So I would say while it's important, it's by no means the only thing that you need.
Yeah. And just a follow-up for that, what do you think are the most tangible steps to create a diverse team in management?
I mean, like, I think, like, to create a diverse team, like, there's, who people are as their identity, but also, like, their experiences. At least in consulting, like, the routes into the work that we do, we don't just recruit from business schools, we don't just recruit from, finance backgrounds, that sort of thing. We value diverse sets of experiences. Some of my colleagues have like physics degrees or history degrees. Like it's more like your ability to creatively solve problems rather than technical knowledge. So I would say it's something along the lines of shaping people's personal identities, as well as the experiences that shape them as well.
And would you say that your sector of consulting weighs diversity differently compared to other sectors of consulting at Deloitte?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to other sectors given I haven't personally like worked there, but in my experience, like the teams that we have are like super diverse, both like with their like physical and like backgrounds and identities, but also just like their where they come from and the places that they worked before. At least here in BC, like we have a growing like Indigenous like dedicated nation building practice, which is 100% like Indigenous owned and led. So that's something that we take very seriously and have made deliberate effort to embed across our organization.
And then on a larger scale, how do you think Deloitte differentiates itself from other big four accounting firms when it comes to diversity?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Like, I can't really say, but like, I know that this is something that the firm takes very seriously, and something we've like published reports transparently on both the things we said we were going to do, the things that we did do, and also where we fell short. So this is something that we don't just kind of say, but we actively manage, deliver, and track. So I'd say that kind of speaks to the deliberateness and impact that we've been able to have over the past couple of years.
And then on another side, how do you learn empathy, cultural intelligence, and reliability as a manager? And do you think it's inherent?
That's a good question. I mean, like some people are inherently like more empathetic than others just based on like their own experiences, and I think that's like pretty fair to say. But I would say it's like a super useful kind of built skill, both in like the cultural sensitive work that we do, as well as just generally like project management and like stakeholders. Like when I approach consulting work, like typically why my clients like working with me is I don't like to just deliver on a predefined kind of scope of work. Like, hey, we said we'd give you, these 3 deliverables and we're just going to do that. I like to like actively check in on an ongoing basis and really listen to see if they're getting like the value that they wanted out of the organization, out of the delivery that we were doing. So I would say like a sustained effort of listening and making our clients feel heard is something that you can definitely learn.
Yeah. And then how would you say, have you successfully incorporated diversity management directly into your day-to-day policies and just overall procedures?
Yeah, I mean, like again, like this is something that Deloitte takes very seriously. I don't know off the top of my head, but the people I've had a chance to work with just functionally are super diverse, and I've had the opportunity to learn from them and work with them. So I'd be happy to reconnect kind of after this chat and share specifically the actions we take, but I know it's pretty robust.
Yeah. And then for you personally, stepping into the role of manager, do you think your viewpoint on diversity and inclusivity shifted?
It's definitely given me more of appreciation for how people like to be worked with, both at like kind of a managerial level, but also as like a peer level. So it's definitely changed my experience in terms of like philosophically my approach to kind of cultural sensitivity, empathy, and diversity. I'd say it's pretty consistent.
And then for emerging leaders who want to lead inclusively in global environments, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, just be ready to learn and actively listen. Like, I think both when it comes to diversity and just like the work that we do in general, active listening is foundational to any good outcome, and ongoing dialogue, consultation, and communication. So just having first building credibility and trust, and then moving into that ongoing discussion is how I would recommend anyone succeed in a role like that.
Okay. And then being at Deloitte for a while now, do you think the definition and the initiatives for diversity have evolved over your time being here?
Yeah, I mean, I started in 2019, which was right before both COVID, and then shortly after that, like the Black Lives Matter movement. So both of those, as well as Indigenous reconciliation, were transformational societal events that at Deloitte we took deliberate action to progress upon and move towards. So I would say in the past 5 years, we've seen a marked improvement in the efforts that we've made, and also the progress that we've made in each of those areas. So I would say it's definitely been improving.
Yeah. And then how often do you consider diversity when making decisions, and when are times that it's hard to include diversity in decisions?
Like, can you contextualize when you say like decisions? Like, what would that look like for me?
For instance, when you're working on a consulting project, when you're looking at stakeholders, the diversity kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, we have careful planning in any sort of project that involves diversity, inclusion, and specifically like Indigenous engagement. So we have cultural safety experts, for example, when it comes to the work we do with different Indigenous organizations across Canada. And we regularly engage them as subject matter experts to ensure that the work we do will resonate well with how our attendees will react, and also making sure that they feel valued and that we take their culture seriously and put it into practice.
And does doing so affect the way you assign work to different people in your team?
Yeah, I mean, like there's, when we say diversity, there's like diversity of like your personality, but also like kind of your identity and background. So at the start of every project, like what I like to do is on our projects, we call it a team pledge, where we'll spend about 2 hours of time where we kind of explain how we like to work with one another, what our expectations are and our goals are for the engagement. In this meeting, I kind of get a deep understanding of how different people like to work, both with me as a manager and also our client and what they hope to get out of that. So learning from them and listening to them, we can typically make a plan that meets the needs of everyone involved and gives folks the chance to bring their best and full self to work.
And then just a follow-up on that exercise, when you're delivering feedback, how do you keep in mind cultural consideration throughout the process?
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't, in my experience, had like I don't typically don't deliver feedback based on someone's individual identity unless they've made it, expressly clear that they wanted it that way. I think that's part of like in establishing a trusting relationship early at the start, so they feel like they can bring their full identity to work. My feedback style is I like to be kind of very casual and involved in the delivery of my teams, where I'm not a manager who's sitting back and telling them they're doing something wrong. I'm kind of in the trenches with them, doing the work and giving feedback live in a way that I think will ultimately make them feel challenged in a good way, so they can ultimately improve.
Okay. And then one more question. What do you think for Deloitte and maybe just overall as a manager is the next step to foster and leverage diversity?
Yeah, I mean, I think diversity, at least in like the consulting world, is a critical success factor. Like our clients have a diversity of issues that warrant a diverse approach. So bringing different perspectives and identities together can be super powerful for building strategies and solving problems. So I would continue to recommend and emphasize that it be foundational in all of the work that we do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to. I know those are like the list. Like I'm happy to
if
unpack
there's more.
anything.
About that. Maybe just if you could speak a little bit on why you chose Deloitte. Like,
Yeah.
what attracted you to the organization, and is that the same today? Like, why you chose it?
Yeah, I mean, like, transparently, coming out of university, like, working for, like, a Big Four is instrumental for a brand, as we all know, so I'm not going to pretend like that wasn't a draw. But the kinds of work and diversity of work you get to do in consulting, and specifically in Deloitte's public sector practice, which is where I find myself, I find the impact is super positive, both for how I feel about it and the impact that we deliver to the province that I live in. So I would say it's a mixture of knowing that you're working with very smart people, knowing that you're working with a competent brand and organization, and lastly that like the projects that we take on are consistent with mandates I have morally myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have you found in your last 6 years the people component to this organization? Like, have you
Yeah.
found a strong network and
100%.
support?
And that's been probably the most powerful thing that's kept me here the longest, is just the trust, relationship, and friends I've made along the way, both like internally and also like the clients that we have. So people is probably the biggest part of that. Yeah.
Any other things you want to add?
Like I'm happy to pick apart like anything. Like I know we had like a structured set of questions, but like if you guys genuinely like want to learn like anything, I can be very casual. What would be like helpful for you guys? Like what other inputs do you need from me?
Yeah, totally. That's what I kind of want. Yeah, we kind of structured our questions around the output, but yeah.
Perfect. So it sounds like you have it, but if you guys have like personal questions too,